Slobby Dobby Part 3. We've got the meme lord himself. We've got Trevor here from catching. No, okay, hang on.
I mean, come on, get the name right at least.
Yeah, fuck. I always go in the description and I attribute the edit for each slob to their YouTube channel. And you've edited lots of clips for us at this point. Every single time I go into the description, I'm like, at catching up on through about it's always, and I think one time I did just like credit some stranger on YouTube, and you're like, you could credit me probably, right?
I mean, it's not a big deal. Like, the podcast isn't successful. We don't have an audience or anything. It's just like a small point of pride where it's like, look, come on, my name's Trevor, not Travis. Could you at least say my name right, Frankie?
Wait a minute, did I call you Travis? Did I ever call you Travis?
No, but plenty of people in my life absolutely have. And
okay.
I've been too kind to say anything, so it's like 3 months down the line, and they're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry."
I had an experience like that in high school chemistry. Like on class rosters and stuff, I'm always Francis. And very quickly, I'm like, hey, I go by Frankie.
It's Frank.
So this one guy, this chemistry teacher, he ended up calling me Fran.
Oh, Fran. Isn't that normally a girl's name?
Mm-hmm. Many people might know, like, that is a legit short version of Francis. My dad went by that as a kid, but I do not identify as a Fran, okay? and it's made more complicated by the fact that my last name is easily confused with Fran because it's Frane, like a train. And he had this like kind of distinguished voice and accent, this like Massachusetts. He was like, all right, Fran, do you want to talk about the periodic table, Fran? Fucking all year, everybody was like, Fran.
Oy, that's terrible. It's also a joke from Anger Management. His name is Frank.
Yeah, I forgot about it. I saw that movie in theaters. That was when it felt like Jack Nicholson was about to retire. He's still very much alive. And all I know about Jack Nicholson now is that he's like lathering on suntan lotion on a boat. Like every summer for the last 3 years, I've seen memes that are like, it's going to be a Jack Nicholson summer.
It's either him eating a sink sandwich or him on a yacht.
Yeah. He'll be in a hotel room and he goes out on the balcony and just like he has like a shirt on and it's like covered in sweat and people are like, this is who I am too.
Living life.
Big hairy mammaries.
It looks like he's just like letting out like the biggest like sigh of his life.
Just clapping his tits in the wind.
Like there's a few people like that where you're like, wow, they're still going.
Yeah, him and Ric Flair, shit.
Oh my God, Ric Flair looks like he's about to pop from alcohol poisoning for the last like half a century.
Oh, he's had a lot of close calls.
Yeah. Actually, has been in the hospital, but he always finds a way to cut a promo out of there.
Woo.
That's his heart rate monitor.
It just says woo.
Woo. Woo. Woo. Woo. Yeah, so Trevor, you're an alpha slob, my friend. I hope you're proud. Tell us about you. Like, how did you come to us, and what's your background? You mentioned that you do a podcast. Tell us your origin story.
Well, I guess I'll start with how I found y'all, or you guys, as my dad would say. I found you guys through the internets.
Are you from the East Coast?
No, actually, I'm from Seattle, born and raised.
Is your dad from the East Coast? Because you guys is pretty East Coasty.
See, that's the thing, is my dad is from Philly. And actually, I guess that connects to my next point here is I found you guys, like a lot of folks, through the AVGN stuff. I saw the brown shorts video that everybody talks about. It's great. I've sent it to my friends and stuff. But after I started digging a little bit deeper, I think you guys did a couple episodes talking about the Rocky films and the theatrical release of Rocky versus Drago, the director's cut of Rocky IV. I also went out to see that in the theater because the Rocky films are very special to me. Because my dad being from Philly and my mom being from Hawaii, like Japanese American woman from Hawaii, they're very different in terms of temperament and culture. And me and my brother kind of fit in the middle and were difficult to understand both ends of it. So like Dad, it was always like, what's my in? Like, how do I talk to this man? And it ended up being the Rocky movies because they would come on like cable and I'd just be sitting on the floor. I was a little kid And I'd just be watching them, and then he'd be pointing at the screen, being like, "That's my neighborhood. Like, I ran down those streets. I fucked that guy up once." Like Jimmy Zazzarino, the guy singing at the Fire Barrel with Frank Stallone. Fuck that guy forever.
Is that for real?
That's apparently a true story.
Oh, wow. Which of the Rockies was the first one that you saw? You said you saw it on cable first?
Yeah, I saw them just on TV. I think accidentally I caught one of the fights. I couldn't tell you which one, if it was the first or the second Clubber Lang fight in Rocky 3. I think I walked into the room when my dad was watching it when I was really young, and I thought it was real. And I kept saying Jesus really loud every time Rocky got clobbered, which, if you've seen especially the first Clubber Lang fight, that's all that is for like 3 minutes. Jesus!
Jesus!
And I was just this little kid. And my parents were kind of experimenting with church at the time. Like, they were like, what the fuck do we do with these kids? Like, are they into the Jesus? Are they not? But apparently, like, blasphemy was, like, on their minds or something, because I got carted out of the room, and my mom was like, you can't say that. Like, you just don't do that.
Wow.
How am I supposed to react to this besides that?
You see how many times he got hit in the face when he could have blocked? I think it was similar. I came into the room when it was on TV, and it was Rocky 2, and I think it was the scene where the kids with the giant crowds run with him towards the end of Rocky 2, which was compelling and interesting and weird and kind of like poetic and just really captivating. Like the music, it was the first time I heard Gonna Fly Now, but then like it rolled right into the fight. And then that Rocky 2 fight is obviously like a major step up in terms of choreography from the first movie. I think the fight in the first movie is probably like the best sequence in cinema history. That's what I'm going to go with. But just in terms of fight choreography and I guess like the super heroism of it all. And maybe that's why it captured us kids. While our dads were watching it as maybe like a sports drama, we walked in and we're like, this isn't that far off from like, you know, the kinds of pop culture I engage with.
Well, it's like Sly said when he like first premiered the movie, people were standing up like it was a real fight, you know. People were getting into it like it was a real fight.
No, I mean, the emotions are real, like even if the choreography is staged.
You could almost apply that sentence to like cinema on a whole. I think it was George Lucas of all people. He said something about like, it's not going to technically make any sense, but it will be romantically correct.
Sort of kind of artistic animation that is not technically correct,
Right.
but is romantically correct.
Oh, romantically correct. I like it. Because you know, everything in the visual arts, even when you're trying to capture realism, it's always like a visual abstraction. It's all, you know, you're always presenting information in an intentionally artistic way. So yeah, like nothing is literal in the arts, right? And then when you actually start producing movies and you're on sets and you're like almost everything is like cheating the physical space, and yeah, like romantically correct ends up being like the right target, I think sometimes. Yeah, that's why you can get away with hitting Rocky like right in the fucking face, you know, a million times. Okay, so you saw AVGN, then you saw the Rocky stuff, and then you just started watching the podcast after that?
Well, I never actually watched the podcast front to back. I was exclusively, and almost to this day, honestly, absorbing things through the clips. These days, as a like appreciation among my peers, I guess. But from there, I emailed you, Frankie, about exactly a year ago. Actually, I looked it up, and I just sent you one of those weird emails where it's like, "Hey guys, I like what you do. I just hope you know that you're really good. So I appreciate it." I just wrote you a big long thing, just saying like I've been thinking about this notion of gratitude and like how it's important to express that, because you can't just assume that people know that they're doing good or know that they're bringing something into the world.
I love those emails. And you're always so sweet, man. Like Todd last week said, like, hey, like one of the things he finds so rewarding about editing within this group is that there's like a lot of mutual appreciation, and you're so good about, like, you're a really great leader. Because I always see you. Like, even if you're a day late or 2 days late, you'll go back and be like, "Hey, Todd, like I saw the video and I really liked X, Y, and Z." And Jason, yeah. I really like the way you know, so you're not just saying like, "Good job, everybody." You're also like calling out specifically the things that they did well.
You attend to everybody in a very intimate way.
We're very, very sweet. And, you know, they say with like, parenting, actually. Do you have kids, Trevor?
No, I don't. I would like to, though.
You'd be a fantastic father. First of all, because your temperament is nice and even.
The fuck you mean by that?
What the you doing, you little piece of
But yeah, I've been told I would make a good teacher. I end up training a lot of employees at my place of work, even though I like never once volunteered for it, but I just keep getting volunteered for it. And it's very obnoxious.
Do you go with it? Do you say yes? Or is there any part of you that's like, I don't really know if I want to be in this mentorship role over and over again?
Oh, I just go with it. Where it's just like, if you or EJ were to point at me and say like, hey, Trevor, edit this clip, it'd be like, yeah, okay, whatever.
I'll keep that in mind.
Your edits are spectacular. Again, we're going to go through some of them because they're at this point, it's like every time you edit a clip, I'm like, ooh, like this is a Trevor clip. I'm like, this is like Christmas and I get to watch this.
So Trevor, what is your background? Like, what did you train in? Would you go to school for, study for? What is your?
I mean, you can probably pick up on it already. I'm pretty good at talking around myself, but not like directly about myself.
How is your mother?
Oh, hey, who says I have a mother?
So let me try to be honest with that. So I went to the Evergreen State College out here in Olympia in Washington.
Oh,
very controversial.
Yeah, actually, in the past several years, it's been in the headlines a lot for a lot of terrible reasons. It has thoroughly gone to shit, as far as I can tell. Like,
That's a shame.
all the stories I've been hearing suggest that, like, my graduating class was, like, on the cusp. It was like, we barely got out of there okay, and then everything started to go to shit. So,
but did you enjoy your time there?
I did.
Yeah.
I did, but it was, very non-traditional, like no 101 classes or anything like that. I didn't do the underwater basket weaving is the meme class. That it's kind of a meme that's perpetuated beyond the borders of the campus. That's like that was on the curriculum at one point. That was a class you could take.
Oh, that's real? That's not something like a conservative made up in a fever dream?
No, they made it up on their own.
Wow.
I just studied stuff. I felt I made a very good use of my time in that I learned how to learn and I met good people and I was working hard constantly. I was never apathetic or lazy, but it was very much not a traditional college experience and it probably hurt me in the long run. But I've never actually had media training. I tried to get into the MediaWorks program at Evergreen, but it's like a one opportunity thing where you get like 2 years open to you and you get to apply for it. And if you don't get in, it's just kind of like, well, you're shit out of luck. So instead, I took night classes in all manner of things and to scratch that itch, because I've always been really interested in film and media and storytelling in general, I ended up working with people who were in that program and helping them. And actually, I mentioned that on Discord to Frankie the other day about the notion of being like a facilitator rather than the star of the show, rather than being the core driving force of a creative effort or something. But I don't have any formal training. And in fact, working for you guys was the first time I ever laid hands on Premiere. I had to get Premiere and learn how to use it.
Wow. Yeah, you could have fooled me.
I've used other editing softwares, but never Premiere. I've used a hit film, if either of you are familiar with it. Anyway, so all of this has been a learning process, and I've never had a job that I ever like thought of as a career or something that I really, really wanted to do. So the things that I do outside of my 9 to 5 are the things that are most important to me, aside from the girlfriends and family and stuff. I care about her too. She's all right.
I think that's kind of how we all feel, is that the outside of the 9 to 5 is where the real action happens. So we know about Rocky. And we know that you came to like editing or different kinds of editing a little bit later, but like where does film fit? You do a podcast obviously about film. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, actually listening to Todd, his really awesome appearance on the podcast. Todd's such a warm, awesome guy. Yeah. No, that was a beautiful conversation. I'm really glad you guys had him on, but, kind of similar to him and it sounds like maybe everyone in the room, like there was a certain point where I was watching movies and it's an art form and it's almost like a language, like Frankie and I were talking on Discord about rhythm and timing and how you have a voice through the way you do your editing. And just something clicked where it's like, I think I understand this a little bit better than some of my peers. Like I'm not passively engaging in it. I'm absorbing it in a way that feels substantive, in a way that feels good. Like it feels like I'm getting something out of it rather than just raw entertainment or a time waster while I'm fucking around with my Transformers or whatever.
Yeah.
Or my Weapons and Warriors that we never actually learned how to play, but we just shot the cannon at things.
Like we were saying, like there's kind of a musicality to a good edit.
I have an expression that I use with the girlfriend where it's like I eat with my eyes, and a lot of times that feels like the case. Like I have a very good friend who I used to go to the first Thursday arts walks with all the time, and as it would get late in the evening, he would walk up to all the paintings and he'd just like do one of those and just like zip, like just absorb it into his being, and it was a form of nourishment. It was something very necessary and core to his being, and that's kind of like me, where it's like I don't know if I'd call it like exactly nourishment, but it's almost a form of exercise.
Yeah,
where it feels like it tickles a part of my brain that really enjoys it and benefits from it.
Like deep observation.
Yeah.
There can be a tendency with the brain to summarize visual information. After you learn how to read proficiently, right? You end up like you just kind of memorize the way words and sentences look, and you're not really reading. If you're on a long car trip, you kind of know what the blur of trees look like. You're no longer observing the trees, right? Maybe you have more of a tendency than the average person to actually pause and observe.
Yeah. I think that's the case. Like the girlfriend's always complimenting me on that. And what you mentioned about like interacting with the slobs and stuff, I told you Discord is actually new to me too. I don't do Discord.
75 years old.
I don't own toothbrush. I don't wipe properly. No, I didn't do Discord. It's just not something I really considered or thought would work for me. But like in interacting with the slobs, what you said, like seeing people, making sure that they know that they're being seen. Like when I was a kid, I was really quiet, and as a result of it, like when I see the quiet person in the room, I see a part of myself, and it makes me feel compelled to like make sure that they know that they're heard and seen. And I think it's important to like making those small points is what informs people that you actually digested the work. You didn't just click play and then fold your laundry and look up every once in a while when you hear Frankie or EJ laughing or something. It's like, no, you actually watched it and you have some pointed observations to make.
Yeah, especially with content being like it is. It's there's a billion videos a day that you can consume, and you can consume them in any order. And sometimes we mainline them, right? We're like, I'm gonna watch. I've got these 10 videos in my watch list, and I don't really have time to watch them all before tomorrow's videos come out. So I'll watch them all on 2x. And yeah, there is like this tendency to just feast on stuff and throw out the bones, Yeah.
Then you're like, oh, I found a new content creator, and now I have to like save their videos.
I'll add about Discord. We were new to it as well. I think during the BoxMac days, something, a person or two would float the idea once in a while, maybe a Red Cow Discord. I don't know, and that was like in our early Patreon days where I think we were making, $300 a month or something like that. Now we're, closer to like 1,100. Yeah, it was for fitness that we made one, just to have like a little bit of community around fitness. But then like it just so happened that the short shorts video hit right around the time that we opened the Discord for fitness. And suddenly everybody from AVGN land flooded in. And we were like, oh, wow. And the Discord took on like a very different complexion. And then it was free at that time. And then shortly after, it became obvious that like, all right, the best thing to do would be to make this a Patreon perk, A, so that we have a good perk, and B, it's only like at the $2 level too, and B, just to have that little bit of
a buffer.
Just a little bit of a buffer, because yeah, you definitely do get the lost souls of the internet sometimes.
And most lost souls, believe it or not, don't have $2.
Not per month, or at least they struggle to set up the payment or something. I don't know.
$2, get out of here.
Kevin Smith used to in the early days of the View Askew message board, on the early internet. I think he charged something like $5 a month or maybe less, maybe $1 a month. And it was purely so that there was just some skin in the game before you just show up and take a dump all over the place. These like open chat rooms have a way of being dumping grounds. So editing in particular, or was there another aspect of film production that ever interested you? You're a writer or anything like that?
I'm one of those people that probably drives both of yous nuts. I'm an idea guy. Not so good at the follow through.
Well, apparently you edit video and you do it timely. So no, you're way outside of the idea people.
Timely and like amazing memes, amazing composites, and it's great.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that, EJ. But the thing about that is that as much as it would be cool to be an actor, as much as it would be cool to be a director, as much as it would be cool to be one of those like sexier frontman type jobs, it seems like I'm better at playing support, like being the bass player or something, like helping other people make their things like reach completion or cross the finish line.
Do you think that we talk about leadership too often? Like everything is leadership. Everything is oriented and here's how to be a good leader. Here's what a leader looks like. Here's leadership qualities. And it's like below everybody to be a follower, but like none of it works if nobody's following anybody, right? Like
whenever I have a meeting about it's like, oh, like at work or something, it's like, oh, what would you like? Where do you like see your career? I'm like, I just want to make videos. Like I don't want to do the like Michael Scott. Like Michael Scott was good at selling paper, and then he got promoted to manager, and he's awful at it. Like I don't want to skip that part.
Kind of makes me think of obscure reference. Sorry, that happens with me when it comes to movies and stuff.
Perfect for editing.
The Lost World, there's that sequence when they're all in the jungle together. It's after the camp goes to shit, and they're just on their jungle trek. And the Ludlow guy, he's like, okay, chaps, let's head off. We got to get to the long grass so everybody can die. And nobody's listening. Like, nobody even looks up. And then Vince Vaughn stands up and says, let's get the hell out of here, guys. And everybody stands up. It's like, he just has that aura of leadership that they actually respond to.
He's tall.
He's tall. He's got a weird forehead and deep set eyes.
You mentioned being quiet at a young age. It's funny. I get pinned as an extrovert. I guess I can't deny that. I'm, outgoing and social to some degree. Although I thought the whole extrovert introvert thing was defined by how energized or not energized you are by social interaction. There are lots of times where social interaction does not energize me, where I can manage it, but I'm not like, wow, and now I'm really ready to start my day after that group conversation. But it's definitely true that like in a classroom setting, let's say, you always find out if you're quiet or loud in a classroom setting. I think early in life, I'm likely to, and this might just be attention deficit, but I'm likely to like raise my hand and talk and shout out the answer. And I'm still like that to this day. This is totally a weakness, but it's almost like I struggle to listen if I'm not speaking. I listen through my mouth. Right. In Creed 1, he's like, hey, you're talking right now and you can't listen while you're talking. That's like a fact of life. Like, when did you learn that you're a quiet person?
I think it was just like I was judicious and when I would interject or when I would make my presence known or something. Like I didn't have that insecurity of like needing to make noise or needing to be heard until I was ready. It's like, I'm okay over here, man. Like don't call on me. I'll put my hand up when I'm ready.
Yeah, it's like when you're in a meeting, someone's like, you're being quiet. And I'm like, I'm just taking it all in, baby. I'm just
listening. I'm participating in my own way.
When I say a word, man, it's gonna blow your socks off. It's like the little Japanese guy on The Simpsons. I want to see what he does.
Oh. Yeah, that's me. Someday, man. Skinny tie and a white suit.
I can be Fat Tony.
Come here, you little squirt.
That was good. You did a better Fat Tony than I did. Let's go through your clips. You've done 13 clips. Much like when you were in grade school and you would wait to talk. Boy, are these, when you edit, you edit. In fact, I would say more than anybody, you've definitely like raised the bar here for what an edit is.
I often will get the comments that they enjoy your edits.
Yeah, you have fans in the comments that are like, "Oh, it's this dude." All right, so your first ever was Kang and the DCEU, when we were talking about Kang being kind of out of things, and then as James Gunn was forming the DCEU, I think, or the start of that. This was when you, I think, decided like you wanted to do movie news and entertainment news. That was kind of something that you felt you had a niche in.
Yeah, I kind of veer towards things that I think I have a decent understanding of, although the Hot D, that was a challenge.
I ask now for Dragon Riders.
Getting on that Hot D, that was that was a task.
It was impressive.
I think that was one of your finest moments.
Wow.
We'll get there. WWE and Netflix was the second one. We were talking about Raw coming to Netflix and the horrible Vince McMahon news and all that. You went right in.
News and politics are not really my forte. Like, I don't really have my finger to the pulse or anything, but wrestling, now that I know a little bit about. I got into it in the Attitude Era with my brother, and I'm kind of a fair weather fan. Like, dip into it every time something interesting happens, like the CM Punk promo or Undertaker and Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania.
There's probably a lot of guys our age, or because I'm kind of in that same boat. Where like I'll check in when it's relevant to my childhood, probably. or
not to derail you, but like I feel like a lot of the world works that way. Like a lot of media properties work that way now, where it's like Ninja Turtles never stopped. You just stopped watching. Yeah. It's like it's always been there. It never actually stopped, and kind of like Transformers as well. It's all just there. It's all running in the background. Everything's comic books. Everything's wrestling. That's a daily saying of mine. Everything is wrestling. Everything in the world can be related back to wrestling in some fashion.
I would say it's a format that's rock concert, stand-up comedy, acrobatics, drama, serialized storytelling. It's a lot of different kinds of entertainment in one. Not to mention a hell of a pipeline for Hollywood with the talent. I saw a clip recently. The caption was something like, 90s wrestling was insane, and it was just some random Monday night, and in the ring was The Rock, Stone Cold, Kane, and Undertaker, and all the comments were like, this was just on some random Monday,
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you think about it, it's like really big, hot, fit people who can comfortably talk in front of a crowd of 70,000 people like every week. That is a skill set.
Get the audience eating out of their hands.
Yeah.
And then they have to do stunts. And those stunts have to have signatures that can then be video gameized. They have to form a character that's silhouetted, and wrestling. Everything is wrestling, Trevor.
Everything is wrestling. That's a video that I want to make someday.
I guess you'd have to come up with like 10 pillars of reality, all of which are wrestling.
I tried to start writing it a little while ago, and I nearly borked my brain because I was bouncing off into so many different directions, different tangents that you could spin that off into. Anyway, nobody steal that. No. Everybody's gonna steal it. Dario, I'm looking at you.
Dario's gonna steal it.
He's gonna steal it.
And then up next was The Marvels, when EJ and I actually got around to watching it. And I remember you did a really awesome job on that. Because that's one of those, I think sometimes when we do movie reviews, especially when we kind of come late to them, and there's a lot of online discourse around said movie. It's just, they always make for complicated edits. I ended up doing my own edit I got a little bit of help with it, but my own edit for when I finally saw Barbie. And yeah, it's just, you end up having to be a little bit more careful about everything you're saying. Just, you're going to get misrepresented, but so that you don't get so easily misrepresented. Yeah,
there's a certain tone that's like, it's a little bit more withdrawn, where it's not quite as aggressive, or so much has already been said. You're arriving late to the game and stuff.
Well said.
Also, from an editing standpoint, those are tough because the movie is available and you have an entire motion picture, an entire feature film to pull clips from. In that case, I had the whole movie and I was just like, oh my God, what are they talking about right now?
Here, we'll talk a little bit about like the technicals of editing. If you were taking a Premiere 101 training course on, LinkedIn Learning or something, they would tell you like, go to the source clip, find the in and out, and then drag the in and out onto the timeline and then place it where you want to place it. I generally don't use the source video monitor and do any ins or outs there. So maybe we're all the same. I pull it onto the very end of the timeline. I unlink the audio and video, so I'm not tethered to, the audio in any way. And I just kind of scrub around until I find what I want. And I get that piece.
I just keep the whole block of footage and just pull out slivers of it and drop it where I need to. And just keep going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. But EJ, do you do that, or do you have?
I use the source monitor. I do ins and outs on the source monitor.
You guys are fucking crazy.
When I'm editing my the B-roll for my own stuff, I do put all the B-roll I don't know, if I'm making ribs, I'll put it all at the end, and then I do it in a way with my own stuff. But if I have a full movie, I'm just doing in and outs and putting it into the timeline.
When I've done Star Wars stuff, I'll take the whole season. If I'm going to be talking about the whole season, I'll take the whole season and I'll plop it onto the very end of the timeline. And then I don't have to worry about was that episode 2 or 3? Or I'm editing a box Mac right now, and we talk a ton about fast food. And I kind of just try to go through my first pass and take notes of all the different kinds of clips I would probably want to use. Because I don't necessarily want to get into a rhythm where I'm editing a small piece and then going and sourcing a clip, editing a small piece and going and sourcing a clip. A lot of times I will do that, but it'd be nice to just have all the clips and be ready to lock and load everything. But I downloaded something like 20 clips that were candidates for getting edited in. And then I threw them all at the end, and they were all just kind of quickly available to me that way. Now we're just teaching the audience how to edit.
What else did he edit?
Next up was Bob Iger canceling movies. Which he's still doing. He's still doing it. It fucking suck. And then there was Star Wars News, March 2024, and I think that was the harbinger of the Acolyte around that time.
The Acolyte.
Drowned in the pool. You have any garbage bags?
Just throw it over the fence. Let Arby's worry about it.
And then, you know what? This might be my favorite one you've done. Was Ghostbusters Frozen Empire.
Yeah. I was very happy with how that turned out.
You saved it. Because I didn't see the movie.
I didn't see the movie.
And the most memorable part of that is we impersonated Red Letter Media.
That was a really proud moment for me. It was like Zach with the Bespoke video.
Yeah.
He saw it and he knew what to do. There's no thought process involved. It's just I know what to do with that. And so it's just let's just replicate one of those Plinkett moments and put the Ghostbusters instrumental over it, and
that was great.
Let Frankie do his really amazing Rich Evans.
I thought it was fine.
It's the hand gesture that gets me, Frankie. Yeah, it's the hand gesture that completes the package.
I don't have a piece of paper to be I got my notes.
Part 2.
If you hate watch it, they'll renew it for season 2. Oh, fuck! This is the part of the podcast where we mumble as
lost everybody.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to turn this shit off. Okay, so next up, Dune Part 2.
Oh, yeah. And
you do lovely thumbnails. You had me as a Fremen, I think, right?
It's one of my only good thumbnails. I'll admit, I fuck around in Photoshop quite a lot and have for a long time, but I'm not good at advertising, Frankie.
Yeah, I probably am not either. I think that probably our clips would perform better if we did not use our faces, but we instead used... I did this one time for when we were talking about the partnership of Trey Parker and Matt Stone. I just used imagery of them and Cartman or something. And I think that generally if the thumbnails were just front and center, about the topic and didn't involve two fucking guys, they would perform better. And the reason I don't just do that is because I do want people to know they're going to be clicking on a podcast with people they might not recognize. I want them to know that going into it.
It's not a documentary. It's two guys fucking around.
It's just better to be upfront about it. You're going to get middle-aged dudes, you're going to get some film bros, so somebody you're predisposed to dislike. Oh, well, shit. So I've already blown my wad on Frozen Empire, but Madam Web was next. Did you watch Madam Web in order to edit the clip? Was that one of those times?
I did. I had no intention of watching it, but I borrowed the girlfriend's Netflix.
and you thought it was just as amazing as we thought it was.
It's amazing in its own special way. That was a beast of an edit and also a slog to get through that movie. There's so many strange elements of it, though. Like, it's one of those movies I would love for somebody to make an honest making of documentary about, just because of all the bullshit that went into it and got yanked out of it. And then there's these weird flourishes where it's like you can't accuse it of being a lazy effort, because I don't know if you guys remember this, but because I was staring at that footage for so fucking long, like I noticed the eye examination tool, that lens flipping effect is a common transition in that movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of like interesting camera movements in that movie. Like, it seemed like somebody was at least screwing around with the camera in a fun way.
I mean, somebody cared enough to try some stuff, to no avail, but it's like effort was put forth in the weirdest of ways. It's like that Nothing But Trouble movie where it's just like, you put the money where? You built a drawbridge? You got Tupac? What?
It's the perfect storm of unanswered questions. There's one too many mysteries about the nature of this movie. Like, how is it a good business decision in the first place? Forget like, oh, it's nobody's going to show up for that particular hero. Just I don't know. Like, did they have plans to connect it directly to Spider-Man, to Venom? Like, where was this going?
It was like they hoped it would, but like nobody told them they could, so they never committed.
Yeah, it feels like it was like 10% into development, and then they started shooting.
It's like, oh, there's this monster you got to fight. Oh, there's the monster, fight him.
They were like, maybe Madam Web, maybe it could be Dakota Johnson, maybe Uncle Ben could, I don't know. They were like kicking around ideas, and then there was a camera and a set, and they were accidentally shooting it, and they're like, oh fuck, I guess we better finish it.
Oh shit, we're making a movie?
ADR every line of the villain.
Every line. It's pitiful. It's sad. It's really sad.
It's really sad. It's pathetic.
Maybe it's not that dude's voice. Maybe some other guy.
I mean, seems like his accent, because I think he speaks French natively. His accent seemed to be an issue to some producer somewhere, but so it very easily could be someone else entirely. It's like, hey, Frank Welker, what are you doing? Like, Megatron, get in the booth. Be the spider villain guy who nobody gives a shit about.
This movie's coming out on Saturday.
We got to be done shooting by Friday, and Trevor's going to have to edit it fast. And then you did Godzilla -1, your first edit with John.
Oh yeah, that was a privilege. Godzilla is like one of my favorite things. When I was a little kid, Optimus Prime, Godzilla, and a little bit later Rocky, all heroes of mine. So Godzilla is like kind of like a lifelong, not obsession, but I'm not that weird.
But it's built in.
Yeah, no, I've always had an affinity for him ever since I was a baby, apparently. Like, we have a family story about me, like, seeing a guy in a Godzilla suit on the street, like, handing out toys and stuff, and apparently I just went apeshit. I love the Big G. He's great. So I had to get that one, is what I'm saying.
Son of Godzilla. There's nothing better than the Son of Godzilla.
That was one of the big hits for me when I was a little kid. The Terror of Mechagodzilla has always been my favorite ever since I was a little kid, and Godzilla vs. Mothra, the 64 one. And also Son of Godzilla. Those were kind of the big three in the house growing up.
Have you been an AVGN fan like all along? Is that kind of, obviously you were brought here because of him?
I think I was in college when I found him. I think my brother sent me the Power Glove video, and my brother thought it was terrific because he and I both were Nintendo kids. We both had NES and SNES a little bit later, and just that rant with the stationary camera bitching about the Power Glove just really clicked. And then I discovered, like, through game trailers, I think at the time, Stuttering Craig and all those guys.
That guy's still around.
I guess I've been there since like almost day one, kind of. I'm kind of a fair weather fan these days. I read his book. I bought his book. I got the Blu-ray of the movie, and had Kieran and Justin and James sign it.
Really?
Yes, they were at like the table before you got to James, and at the time the Screenwave stuff was like nobody was talking about, nobody knew about it yet. I just assumed they were friends of his or something because they just appeared one day. I mean, it seems like we all had that experience where it's like, who the fuck are these guys?
It's like they appeared out of fat air. Okay, good. And then Iron Claw, when EJ watched so that's wrestling again.
That's wrestling. And I had just seen the movie not too long before you guys posted that.
I forgot to say in that review is that Ric Flair in that movie sucked. That was a bad Ric Flair.
Thank you for pointing that out, EJ. He was awful.
Yeah.
Like no resemblance, no charisma. I don't know how that got through. Where it's like, how do you have wrestling advisors on the set of this film and let that guy do that? That was terrible.
That was the most unforgivable part of that movie.
I didn't notice him, but my brother is a big AEW fan. In fact, I'm going to be going to the Wrestle Dream pay-per-view in Tacoma, just down south of Seattle here.
You think you know him?
He's a big AEW fan, and MJF is like one of their big talents. Apparently, he's in the Iron Claw, but for the life of me, I did not notice him. He's a brilliant orator. Like he's a terrific mic talent. Just put a blonde wig on him and just trot him out as Ric Flair. It's like he doesn't look anything like him, but he could do it.
It's romantically correct.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it wasn't. That's the problem.
Or Will Ferrell from Eastbound and Down when he played Ashley Schaeff of BMW. There was a scene from, so Eastbound and Down, Danny McBride show by the same people who made Vice Principals and the other one there, The Righteous Gemstones and Foot Fist Way. I love Foot Fist Way. Season 1 is kind of like Eastbound and Down at its best. It's kind of in its purest form. Season 2 is like a complete gimmick. Like suddenly he just like moves to Mexico and it really throws the whole show off in a really, I think, clever, creative way. And then season 3 is when I think the show kind of lost its grounding a little bit. It did a 4th season too, but he like comes back to town and they kind of like find equilibrium again. But there is a scene, my friends, at the beginning of, I don't know if it's like episode 1 or 2 of season 3, but they brought the Will Ferrell character back and he captures Stevie, Danny McBride's like friend in the show, and dresses him up like a geisha and makes him like serve at like a big Southern feast. He ends up like murdering somebody or like threatens to murder somebody like on their plantation. And it becomes, everybody's improvising like madmen. And there's they just completely went for it in the scene. And I gotta tell you, it's some of the most laugh out loud hysterical comedy for I don't know, maybe a good 10 minutes. He has like a mammy who's his servant, and he has like a kind of inappropriate like sexual relationship with her. There's undertones of that. And she's like, Ashley, you need to watch your mouth, son. And he goes, sorry, mammy, I'm just full of Fanta tonight.
You did, mammy. I'm just all full of Fanta tonight.
And he brings Stevie out dressed as a geisha, and he's like, look at how subtle and delicate her movements. Will Ferrell is just like let off a leash. Will Ferrell's obviously a talent, and I like him, but I've never been like a Will Ferrell fan. I'm a fan of that.
Whatever the fuck that was.
yeah. More of that, please. Especially there's on YouTube you can find the extended, extra improvised version of it. I recommend it.
Those outtakes are legendary. They spread around Twitter every once in a while.
Oh yeah, the one where Craig what's his name from The Office, and Kenny Powers are like face to face, and Will Ferrell's like right between them, like whispering. And he's like, this reminds me of when I was making love to my wife, Donna. Heavy breath, humid air conditioner turned off. My son Gabriel came in the bedroom. He said, what's going on? I said, no, you watch, Gabriel. All right, next up was Hot D, as well as House of the Dragon.
Yeah, that one was just between us.
Yeah. We weren't recording, tragically. But yeah, you did our recap of episodes 3 and 4 of season 2 of House of the Dragon. And you were like, hey, there's a problem. I haven't seen any of this show, and I'm not very well going to like binge it, like just to edit one clip. And I was about to go edit it. I was like, don't worry about it. I'll go do it. No worries. And you were like, no, I'll edit the House of the Dragon clip. And through some kind of heroism, he edited it perfectly. And then he's like, no, but really, I have no idea what's going on in this show. You just found like, relevant clips. It was incredible.
Yeah, there's a lot of white-haired ladies in that show. I just covered that very quickly. It was like a weirdly tense moment. Like I'll just share this with you both. I felt like ownership. I was like, don't you take that away from me.
Oh, wow. I was ready.
Because everything that you were saying in the Discord suggested you were trying to do me a favor. Like you were doing me a service by taking something off of my plate. And in this case, I felt like this visceral, like, no, don't you fucking dare. Like, I'm doing that. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if I can, but that's mine. I said I was going to do it, and I'm going to do it.
Look, I have one job on this lousy ship. It's stupid, but I'm gonna do it, okay?
After one or two exchanges, I got the whiff that, like, you should let him do it. Let it go. Indiana, let it go.
Indiana. Junior.
That's pretty good.
And then he glances back at the old man who dies in the rocks.
Yeah, he's just like, huh.
Yeah, and then Deadpool and Wolverine, which not only was a very intense edit, but also a very intense turnaround, because we had a rare opportunity where we both saw the movie like opening night, and we were like, oh, we could actually release this like the way other YouTubers release reviews, like kind of post weekend or during the weekend. I left work a half hour early, ran and saw the movie, and have come back.
Out of my way, jerkass!
Yeah, usually you have to wait like 2 weeks after the movie already premiered.
So yeah, Trevor like flipped it right around. And but you actually did run out and go see the movie and then edit.
I got several minutes into the edit. I got like one spoiler, and I won't repeat it here just in case anybody has issues with that. But it was an early spoiler in the film, or an early cameo. So I got like one from you, but it wasn't like anything that hurt my feelings or anything. Yeah. And then the girlfriend knocked on my door and was like, hey, do you like want to actually go see the movie? And I was like, I can do that, right? I was like, that's right.
At the local movie theater.
See it how? Money can be exchanged for goods and services.
Yeah.
And, you know, Nina's on there too. And so I was very excited to show. I do show Nina all the clips. There was a time before the clips were so produced, she didn't listen to the full podcast, certainly. And I think generally she wouldn't like catch up on the clips or anything. But now it's kind of more similar. Like when I finish editing a Box Mac, she and I watch the Box Mac. Now, yeah, like after Gloria goes to bed, she'll be like, any new clips from the Slobs?
Oh, and, that's really cool, man.
Yeah, we sit around, we watch it.
Yeah, I liked the out of my way jerk ass that I managed to slip in there twice.
Should I leave work a half an hour early to go see it?
Out of my way, jerk ass!
I guess Godzilla was when you decided that my face would go really well on funny things.
I often think in terms of like movie clips anyway, so it's like, yeah. how could I merge these two worlds?
Utilizing AI too, I think, is another thing.
I do that when I don't have what I need. Right. Like I do that when there is no reference, because that was the challenge with the Deadpool one, was because of the quick turnaround. I didn't have footage. I saw at least like one comment that was bitching about the AI stuff. And I know it is a controversial subject for sure. But in my case, it's like, the fuck else you want me to do? Like, yeah. I'm not going to draw, like, I'm not going to take out my colored pencils and draw pictures, like depictions of the events of the film on a napkin or something.
Yeah, and why not?
Because I had like
why didn't you hire
72 hours to do it.
The most conventional thing is they loop trailer footage. I don't want to like keep using the same clip of Wolverine stabbing Deadpool over and over and over again.
Or like the Critical Drinker, I feel like he just loops footage like chaotically. There's like there's no like agency behind it.
He's got the right idea, man. Just loop the trailer and blab underneath it and release it. And profit.
You stood on the shoulders of geniuses to accomplish something as fast as you could, and before you even knew what you had, you patented it and packaged it and slapped it on a plastic lunchbox, and now you're selling it. You're selling it.
That's where you get your quick turnaround. Is like, don't actually make an edit. Just talk into a mic and fart it out.
We all kind of like making a video, you know, even though it's a podcast. We like making a video.
It seems like, all the slobs, that seems to be our thing. If I'm going to add intrusions, clips or gags or something, I want them to be brief, and I want them to serve the purpose of emphasizing or adding punctuation or something. I don't want to make, it's not mine. I'm helping you guys make a thing. I'm taking something you guys already did well and trying to make it better.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is kind of like making, I guess, like a a little video or a short film or something, as opposed to just like, here's two guys talking about a thing.
Yeah. Every December, I normally stream like the top videos from Red Cow this year, and the fact that the clips have become videoized like they have. I think that's going to make that much nicer, where a lot of those will be really rewatchable. And like, as I read all of your videos, I'm like, oh, I kind of like want to go back and watch that, like the Frozen Empire one and stuff. And then finally, the last one was romhacking.net and Game Informer, which was also really fun.
Yeah.
This is tricky because that one, and I think one of the Bob Iger ones, quite a lot of the conversation was you reading, Frankie, like reading an article, and it's like, how do I make this sexy? it's like I needed to get creative, and actually those additional pressures, I think, is what makes the creativity come about. It's like how do I make this interesting? Like, how do I give this a rhythm to it when it's a man looking here and reading a thing, like reciting a thing? Because it's funny, like I get a weird thing, but like I get irritated with the girlfriend sometimes because she likes to read things to me. Like, she likes to get feedback about like work documents and stuff.
And you're like, you could have edited this,
But like, my reaction is like, I don't react well to things being recited or read to me. Like, just something about the cadence and the way it hits my ears. It's like, it just doesn't stick as well. And it's like, just give me that.
Oh, you'd rather read it for yourself at that rate. Yeah.
I would rather read it for myself.
Yeah. If somebody starts reading in like a meeting, at my job, I just kind of wait for it to be over. Yeah. I wonder if being so conscious of like what makes good storytelling, like setups and payoffs, rhythm and tone, like everybody struggles with boring or like, terrestrial conversation. But I wonder if the fact that we're hyper aware of this sort of thing makes it even harder.
Yeah. I mean, doing podcasts all the time probably complicates things a little bit, because like a podcast is as organic as it can be. It does have a life. It does have a direction to it to some extent. Like, you have a topic list or like a reason why we're all here, and we're all trying to not be boring.
Yeah. There was a guy on Cinemassacre Truth the other day. I won't read it because of the aforementioned, but
you might lose Trevor.
I'm not telling you you're boring, Frankie. I'm just saying
I'm just saying that I need to include some Resident Evil clips or something.
He's giving me nothing. Jesus.
This guy was like, oh fuck, the slobs need to knock it off with this shit. That was the headline, and I was like, what do the slobs need to knock off? And he goes into some 2 or 3 paragraph diatribe about how like he's sick of the fact that if somebody mentions something like a video game, like Mario 2 or Resident Evil or something, that he's like, and then like the editor cuts to that. He's like, yeah, it's so fucking stupid. I know what Mario 2 is. You don't need to cut to it for me.
Like editing.
They cut to the title screen or some shit. So I was like, hello. And I don't know if he recognized that it was me. It's not so much that the editor assumes that you don't know what Mario 2 is and feels the need to demonstrate Mario 2 to you. It's more like, probably they have a cut that they want to cover. And also it just kind of keeps some, a little bit of visual dynamic to the video. And he was like, no, I don't understand that shit at all. I mean, just say Mario 2 and cut to nothing. I was like, oh, wow.
I think I did catch a comment on like one of the clips that I edited that issued that same complaint.
Really?
Like, oh, what's the deal with all these clips? They keep showing me things. It's like, they keep making it better. I don't want that.
Whenever I'm watching anything, I appreciate, even if I'm just listening, I appreciate when they show clips, because sometimes I'm not familiar with Mario 2, and I would like to see exactly what it looks like.
Yeah, there's a lot of times I don't actually know what you guys are talking about, and I have to hunt it down, and it's like, oh, now I know, and probably other people would like to know that too.
So even if you're listening, and then you're like, they mentioned Mario 2, and you glance over, oh, there it is right there, and then it fills the picture and you continue listening. This is how like entertainment works.
Yeah, you're just EJ explaining the basics.
You probably didn't notice it, but your brain did.
All right, so your YouTube channel, it is catching up on cinema. Nailed it. And so it's you and a buddy who do that podcast. Tell us about the podcast.
Yeah, it's me and a buddy named Kyle, who, other than his first name, I'm not allowed to talk about him on the internet, really. We started it like maybe 6 years ago, and we were coworkers, like working side by side at our desks. And I don't know if you guys can relate to this at all, but like making friends sometimes, like tricky proposition where it's like you feel like there's a certain threshold you have to cross before you're actually friends with someone as opposed to like acquaintances. Mm-hmm. So he and I were workplace buddies, and we talk about movies all the time. And he would come in and he'd say, "Did you catch up on any cinema this weekend or something?" And we did that all the time. We bullshit a lot. And then he was moving away. He was moving to a different state. And I was like, but I like you, and I want to keep talking to you, but we're not like for real official friends yet. So I was like, hey, you want to do a podcast?
That's how EJ and I did it. That's how we consummated.
So I invited him to do the podcast with me, and we've been doing it like every week for 6 years now, like without fail, basically.
Wow. Oh, that's awesome.
And it's been our way of keeping in touch. It's our book club, but with movies, basically.
That's great.
Thanks. And in addition to doing weekly movie reviews, we also do catching up on Blu-ray once a month, where we talk about upcoming physical media releases and Tales from the Shelf. And it's the only video component we have for the whole podcast. It's a once a month thing I do with my friend Brad, who has a podcast called the Cinema Speak podcast. He's from Michigan. He also is a movie collector, and he also has a weekly movie review podcast. And we talk about our movie collections, and we have a unifying theme every month for each discussion. So I think last month we talked about space-oriented films, and we've talked about movies like based on their soundtracks, or movies that have like particularly like significant or memorable set pieces. So it's show and tell. It's back and forth show and tell, where it's like we independent of each other. We don't share our picks before we go into the conversation, but we just have them set aside, and then it's like, here's mine. Then we talk for a little while, and then he goes, and then so on and so forth. I think actually in my early email to you, Frankie, I kind of like sent you a loose invite, but like in retrospect, like looking over it, it's like, man, that was a really shitty invite.
I don't know. I don't remember. You know, occasionally people will ask me to do stuff, and I'll do it if it works out or whatever. The thing I'm unlikely to do, it's been happening more recently, is like, hey, if you ever want to have me on your podcast, Frankie, to talk about James Rolfe, I'm a stranger and would be happy to do that. And I'm like, dude, like, I don't want to talk about James Rolfe, but but I've certainly been on like underviewed podcasts and stuff. That can be fun. I always say my only rule is like, I just don't make me do any homework. That's all I ask. But
yeah, I caught that on one of your other conversations.
But like for you, Trevor, I would absolutely do homework. I would do anything that you needed me to do.
Your edits are that good.
I feel extremely lucky that you're in our lives and that you're helping us. And and talking to you today has been amazing. And like, I'd be very happy to be on your podcast sometime.
Oh, thanks a lot, man. I really deeply appreciate that. I mean, the invite goes out to you too, EJ. I assume everybody in this conversation has collections of some sort. We did a video game conversation once because another buddy of mine who does a gaming oriented podcast just wanted in. And I was like, well, we don't usually do that, but like, sure. like we'll change it up. I have a shit ton of video games. Let's do it.
Yeah, I definitely have a bunch of old video. Like I have a bunch of inbox video games. Oh, yeah, I was never much of a movie collector. I enjoy movies and I watch movies, but for some reason I just don't. I watch them once and then I move on with my life.
I had an idea that because I have a lot of standard def DVDs, like a lot. And I keep them in good shape, and I have a lot of Blu-rays too, but I have many more standard F DVDs, and a lot of them are out of print, or they're Shout Factory was only making them for a period of time, or you can get them now, but not that edition. And so I've got fun stuff, and sometimes I'll do we'll show VHSs on the podcast or do a show and tell. I was like, I should start pulling stuff off of the shelf.
I mean, that's what we do every month.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we do every month. And it's a lot of fun because like the reason I started doing it is because I started to realize that like if you have a collection and it's curated, like you're not a hoarder, basically. Like if you have a curated collection, there is a story behind everything that's on your shelf. So it's like impossible to have like a completely boring conversation about even not very good or interesting movies.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I approach my like top 10 list for my game top 10 list is like it's not just like, here's a game, this is good graphics. It's like there's more of a story of how it came into your life.
Yeah, I think that's the most interesting thing, because that's the personal touch that only you can bring to that. Like EJ, I have a very strong affinity for the Super Nintendo. That's basically my favorite console, and that video you did is amazing. It's terrific. In particular, I really like Mega Man X3. I like that you shared so much of why that one in particular, kind of the black sheep of that series, the one that not many people would cite as their favorite, like is on your personal list. That was really cool.
There's a big journey for it. You know?
Yeah, there's a story. And that was really interesting, because I can look up at any number of videos talking about the game itself, but like your particular connection to it is what makes that an interesting video to me.
Wasn't there something you did, EJ, about some 90s album that was associated with a video game?
Oh, it was a Pocket Full of Kryptonite, Spin Doctors. It's associated with A Link to the Past, because I got them both on my was it 10th birthday? My sister got me the cassette, and I got A Link to the Past. So I had the Spin Doctors playing on the tape recorder while I was playing that. So forever they're associated.
Yeah, your wires are completely crossed when it comes to the sight and sound.
I don't even know what the Link to the Past soundtrack is. It might as well be Two Princes.
They would say that smell is the thing that like really conjures like clear memory, or it really surprises you with memory. And that's true. I experienced that. But man, music can really do that.
Certain melodies, that's where my strongest memories usually are. Like the smell thing, maybe it's because I have a total garbage sense of smell. For me, I've always heard that, but I've never believed it.
You know what's funny? My wife points this out a lot. I have a very keen sense of smell, but I can't identify what the smell is. I'll be like, smells like bread. And she'll be like,
I smell something sinister.
I know what clip I have to put in here right now. No holds barred. Hulk Hogan getting in a dude's face and going, "What's that smell?" And the guy goes, "Dookie."
All right, man. Hey, so now that they know of you, they definitely go to Catching Up on Cinema. Lots of our audience likes optical media. That's something I've learned. So if you love Trevor like we do, go subscribe. And hey, thank you for like your, just like the other guys, the incredibly positive attitude, the fact that you are inspired to help us in the first place. It means a tremendous amount to us. And just having you in our lives is like you're saying, it's hard to make friends, and the fact that we can all kind of engage in like a creative pursuit as a group has been like the most unexpected thing to happen to us this year, I think.
It's been a wonderful ride. It's been very educational. Like I said, I picked up Premiere for the first time through you guys. I feel very privileged to be part of the team. I think the team of slobs, we all bring quite a lot to the table, and just the atmosphere is kind of remarkable. How chummy, how friendly everybody seems to be in there. Thanks for offering the opportunity in the first place.
There's something to working on something together, isn't there? Like when, is there any better way to form camaraderie than working on something where everybody is up against similar challenges and can, is working through them simultaneously? That's where bonds are created.
Look, we have an Excel spreadsheet that we have to put green lines on, and we're going to do it together.
Shut up! Subscribe to Red Cow Entertainment on Patreon for full episodes every other week.